It is Sunday, April 20th, 420. We are getting extremely high with Jake Landau. uh, just kidding, folks, but happy 420 to all those celebrating the festivities. I also hear that Easter is apparently happening, but as an atheist Jew, 420 is more culturally significant to me. So, Christians, go have fun with your own thing, whatever it is you do. You're very adorable people. Anyways, this week's guest is a fellow cannabis enthusiast and a political commentator. And activist. His name is Matthew Kercher, and he's also a friend of mine with whom I argue on fair occasion, as I do most of my friends. And yeah, we're here today to talk about a bit about the festivities, but also a bit about other stuff. We're having a bit more casual one, and don't worry, the back half will still be 3 headline topics. You know the deal: 2 big stories, and then 1 more local story. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. You sparked up yet?
I have not.
Oh, that's disappointing. Although you're in BC, so you haven't hit noon yet.
No, and I got the young kid too, so I
well,
gotta kind of be careful when I do it.
True.
But,
yeah.
We'll definitely be hitting it up tonight when I get back home.
Respectable and valid. Meanwhile, here in Toronto, it's only like 2-ish. Of course, like we're enjoying the day. We're having a good time. And I don't know if I'll be getting to any big things for 4:20 p.m. But you know what? Even if I don't, even if I'm still editing this thing, we'll all be having a good time. And you know, I guess we'll get the first question out of the way. Isn't it kind of wild that we can just talk about this openly under our full names now?
Oh, this is so nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a while. Like, legalization happened in 2017, and for context, I was only 18 then. I didn't actually turn 19 until later. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't have turned 19, I think, until 2018. So, like, it like there was it was a very different context I grew up in my childhood. I mean, like, listen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I was a teenager, and we bought things in the washroom, and then we had fun at parties. Like, should teenagers be doing this? No. Are teenagers going to attempt to do this? Yes. Parents attempting to stop them and the teenagers attempting to do it is part of the dance of adolescence and growing up, in my opinion. We try our hardest to stop it, and they try our hardest to get around our very good, reasoned rules. Like, it's the fun of things, but like, it is wild growing up under that context that now it's just like, yeah, you go to a store in a mall.
I mean, that was part of it growing up too, right? Was always trying to figure out how am I going to do this? Right?
Oh yeah.
Like, you couldn't just go to the storefront. I mean, like, there was always that level of it when you were younger and you wanted to go have a drink or something like that. But yeah, I remember, like, you would just go get in the car with a person. You get what you get. You don't get to choose.
Right. And it kind of has done, like, in a way, it has helped prevent, like, minors from being able to consume. Because, like, in the same way that it's hard for minors to get alcohol, because, like, when dealers were selling to everybody, like, there weren't that many compunctions about it eventually getting to kids from a dealer's point. But, like, you don't have dealers who exist solely to sell to children, because children don't have that much money. Like,
No.
like,
well, and it's just that it adds a whole other step to it, right?
yeah, it's like,
I'm sure you can remember being
it's
a
the same
teenager trying to find a booth.
When I was a teenager, it was infinitely easier to buy pot than it was to buy alcohol.
Easy.
Like, it was real. It was so hard to buy alcohol when I was a teenager that I actually just started brewing my own at home. Like, I literally got one of those, like, 4-liter carboys of water from the grocery store, and then I got, like, a packet of baker's yeast and, like, a bag of granulated sugar. And then I also, because I needed an airlock to ensure that the carbon dioxide could escape without oxygen getting in and stopping the fermentation, what I did was, there weren't any balloons at the grocery store, but there was something else inflatable, something that many men use for prophylactic purposes. So I made it at home, and, like, my mom just walks in on me, and she just sees me poking holes in the top of it so the air can get out. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry. It's not what you think. It's something a
Yeah.
lot stupider.
I'm actually doing science.
Yeah. No,
This is a
yeah.
science project.
But again, so yeah, it's like you should never underestimate like how smart teenagers will get at trying to get drunk or high. Like again, we
Yeah.
don't want them to do this, but like in
Well,
a way, like it's now just as hard for teenagers to get access to cannabis as it is for them to get access to alcohol. And we need
well,
to admit that most teenagers will not be like me and actually pay attention in chemistry class to when the teacher talks about fermentation reactions. And I'm like, wait a minute.
this is useful. This is
Yeah.
useful information.
And like at a certain point, like how do you stop that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you? I don't. It is actually a lot harder to make cannabis at home. Like, you got to grow it for several months, and you also have to get seeds.
Well,
But
it's
like
also
being able to
like
make
I
alcohol from just sugar, yeast, and water is literal alchemy.
yeah, it's not it's a lot easier to brew your own alcohol than it is to grow your own plants. There's a
Oh,
lot that into growing your own plants. Like personally, I have tried it
you need a
and
lot of equipment.
I
Like
screwed it up.
it's hard.
I killed them.
And it's funny, like they're saying, like there's a reason it's called weed because it grows like one, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not gonna get a lot of bud when it grows like one. Like
Yeah, no,
you're gonna get a lot of leaf. Like,
yeah, exactly. A lot of stem, a lot of leaf, none of the good stuff.
so you mean mostly like the cannabis you can buy at the store?
Yeah, pretty much. Most
Yeah,
of the stuff you get across the counter. No,
I kid.
I mean, like
I don't
I
mock.
generally
Yeah, I don't mock like the stuff you can buy at the store nowadays because
no.
honestly, people should be vaporizing more than they're smoking now, and for that, the drier stuff is better. What I'm really gonna criticize is the edibles where it can only be like 10 milligrams in the entire package. Like that's
That's see, that's where you got to hit up one of your local indigenous dispensaries. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Ontario, but I know here in BC,
Oh yeah, they have a bunch of them in Toronto where they're just like, and you can tell which ones are indigenous run because they're like the law doesn't apply to us, so you can see through our windows. I know in
the
BC, like it was a couple years ago, I think, where they made you didn't need the frosted windows anymore, and you could see inside the cannabis
oh, as far
dispensaries.
as I know, if it's legal, you have to have your windows
A
frosted. You
lot of
can't
them
be able to.
haven't renovated, but this
Mhm.
when I was in there in December of 2023, I remember talking about this. But
Okay.
like in Ontario, you can't see inside, and a lot of urbanists hate this because it just creates like dead urban streetscapes because
Well,
you
it's
like it's not visually interesting. And I'm sorry if you can see inside an LCBO. I don't know what's scary about seeing inside like a dispense. I know there was a lot of moral panic when it was first being
yeah.
legalized, but in a way, I know liberals are going to hate me for this. I'm kind of thankful that Doug Ford tanked the whole government store plan for pot in Ontario, and just
Oh.
I'm glad he just let like private companies sell it because here's the thing: like a lot of those private companies are unionized too.
Mhm.
Like a lot of, and so it's just I. Mind you, I do like one thing. I know one Atlantic province, I forget which one, but what they did because they didn't want the American credit card companies to be able to see like Amex or Visa or whatever that people had gone there. So they made it so the payment processor was the same as the liquor
Oh, okay.
monopoly
That's
so
cool.
that Americans wouldn't be able to tell and then deny you like a Nexus card. Mind you, I don't know I'll ever be visiting America again with the
Yeah.
concentration
Yeah.
camps and all,
Yeah, I'm not.
so I'm not afraid anymore of talking about my habits publicly, but for the longest time, I wouldn't admit, even if after legalization I did this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty partial actually to the way BC rolled it out. I think they did a pretty good job of it. We have both private and public stores in BC, so the wholesale is all through the public
Oh yeah,
retailer,
it's the
and then
same
it's
in
wholesales
Ontario,
too. Yeah.
wholesale and online sales, and but also local dispensaries can do like delivery like from their storefront to you.
Yep.
So
Yep. They can
it's
do that
like
here too.
I think it's a healthy competitive market. Mind you, the companies investing in it aren't very happy because the profit margins are low. But from
Yeah.
my perspective, that just means consumers are getting great deals, and
Well, that's exactly the thing,
yeah,
and that's part of the reason why I love the advent of the indigenous dispensaries as well, like on reservation land. I know there's some issues, particularly around like taxation and stuff like that. But honestly, I think if those dispensaries on reservation land, I think they should be able to kind of get away with not paying certain taxes, because it's their land, and it gives them a competitive advantage. It's an avenue towards economic stability for
Well,
First Nations.
it's an income stream, and I
Yeah,
think Indigenous communities deserve most income streams they can find. Within
yeah.
reason, mind you, I know there was a thing about Amish people selling cocaine a while back, and I'm like, maybe not that income stream, but like most income streams. Like,
Well, I mean, personally speaking, I'm an advocate for like complete and total drug legalization and regulation. It's kind of like
decriminalize.
what you're.
I think we should decriminalize stuff like cocaine. I don't think you should send like a cocaine addict to jail. But I
Yeah,
don't know that I want, say, like government-run cocaine dispensaries for like. This is where I think the difference between decriminalization and legalization becomes pretty important. Like
yeah, yes.
there are some substances which are unfortunately just severely harmful to society at large. Like part of the argument for legalization of cannabis is that it's a lot less harmful than alcohol.
Mhm.
But like stuff like cannabis and heroin, like I think they're a prime target for decriminalization because like you don't want to encourage people to use them. You don't want to give government a profit motive to encourage people to use them. Especially like you don't want the government to be reliant on tax revenue from cocaine because that creates certain perverse incentives. But it's just that you don't want people who use it to go to jail. You want like proper like safe consumption and diversion and addiction treatment programs that are well funded and actually have spaces for people who want them. Because and I know that's my big complaint about whenever Tories talk about mandatory treatment. I'm like, there isn't even space for people who want voluntary treatment. And
Or
if
when the BCNDP talk about it,
yeah, it's like
like
if we know that
everyone.
treatment for drug addiction is a lot more successful when it's voluntary treatment, when people actually are like, damn, I don't think this is good for me, maybe I should stop, then maybe we should focus on making enough space for those people before we try to like force people into something that we know won't work. It's like, listen, I'm not saying like that we should just abandon people with like severe heroin problems to not, but like you get the idea. It's
Yeah,
like forced confinement is not a good idea. It's proven to either not work or to make things worse. Like,
yeah. No,
and
this was a big
yeah.
discussion we had in BC in the last election. Was about the forced confinement, and both the BC NDP and the BC Conservatives were in favor of forced confinement.
And it
And
pisses me
now
the
the
fuck
BC,
off. It's
yeah,
like
well, and now
it's
the
like
BCNDP,
the BCNDP or it's like whatever progressive party you have in your province or territory or federal. Like you want them to not shy away from their own ideology. You want them to say we believe in this because it's the right thing to do. We don't care if it's a divisive idea. It's the same thing with the fucking carbon tax that pisses me off. It's like, so we all admit that climate change is real, and we all admit this reduced carbon emissions, but we all agree that we're going to get rid of it because we all agree it shouldn't be our responsibility to fix our own problems.
yeah,
I hate everyone. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
no,
I mean,
it is
and
really
I'm doing my
frustrating.
part for carbon emissions. That's why I vape instead of smoke.
I like honestly, I think it is a major issue in our politics, both federally and provincially across this country. It's just our politics is so vibes based now that there's no actual structure. There's no material
There's no beliefs.
ideology,
Like,
behind anything that they do. It's just
I know
the
it
whims of the
freaks
public.
like I know like and I'm liberal associated, I guess. Like I'm trying to lean more into my actual opinion journalism and like more so I mean there's bias in opinion work, but I also like an objectivity around truth and lies and what is true and what is not. But like I know, but this gives a lot of more partisan liberals like give me like a lot of anger when I point out something bad that a liberal does that I don't like. And like, I'm sorry, but like, it doesn't. Yes, you may be a liberal, and yes, I may also be liberal and have voted for the liberals in this election before advance polls opened at the returning office, like because I'm a keener. But like, I'm allowed to criticize. Like, I'm
Yeah,
allowed to like. In fact, my whole purpose of being an opinion journalist is that I'm supposed to write about my beliefs, and I'm supposed to persuade other people that my beliefs are correct. Like, the journalist part is that I focus on the truth. Like the opinion part is that I am making my bias explicit and telling you what I'm trying to persuade you of. But, like, the difference between that and something like a rebel media or whatever is that, like, there's no journalism, there's just opinion.
Is it even
pretty,
opinion?
pretty
Would you even call it opinion at this point?
Bigotry is unfortunately an opinion, a pretty terrible and horrible opinion, but nonetheless an opinion. I think it's an invalid opinion that we should purge from society, but nonetheless an opinion. Like, fun times.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's our media landscape is it's not good. It's really, really, really not great. Like, it's important to
except for the newspapers and radio stations that have me on. You're fantastic.
Well, I was just gonna say to pat your back here a little. It's important to have podcasts like this one, like the Orchard Cast, places where we can go and like talk amongst ourselves about what's really going on.
So you're saying that's why everyone should buy a paid subscription to my Substack, like right now at jakelando.ca/subscribe.
But no, we need to create these spaces for leftists in this country to have these conversations, because let's be honest, we're not featured in the mainstream media in this country. We're not featured in the corporate media. No one really wants to talk to us unless they kind of have to.
I've been in the National Post and the Star, so technically I can't say that, but for the most part, it's correct.
Yeah, like you have done very well for yourself, and you've gotten to a couple publications. But I do know
I code switch a bit. It's like like you can also see it in like my Haaretz piece that I wrote in Israeli media the other week. It's like my beliefs stay the same, but the tone of my conversation changes. It's like, for example, folks, when I go on 6:40 a.m. radio in Toronto, I'm not saying fucking shit because the CRTC exists and they're my friends and I don't want them to get fined. But here I can swear as much as I want, like as long as you don't say like a slur, at which point I'll end the episode early.
Don't gotta worry about that. Not with me.
No.
I
hope not. I wasn't worried until you started, protesting a little bit. Boy.
No. I actually have a LGBTQ family as well. So I'm pretty up and involved.
Of course, you couldn't be bigoted. You're related to that. Well, Matt Kercher canceled.
my girlfriend is bi, and then her father, or I guess her stepmother now, is trans.
Unfortunately, I regret to inform you that straight men going to Pride and saying my girlfriend is bi is so much of a stereotype. The horse is dead. Like, we beat it to death.
And we're actually planning on going to Pride this year. So.
Oh, good for you. Hope you have a good time. Yeah, we like tourists.
I want to start getting more involved in the community. Actually, like I want to go to Pride. I would love to go to a drag show.
I tease, but we do actually need adults. We need allies right now. We also need adults, but we need allies.
We definitely need some adults.
We need adults in the room who will be allies, and I hate the fact that we've seemed to backslided back from 2025 to 2005, and people are saying the R word again, and really shitty times. Yeah. And it's like being autistic. I'm like, I thought we were behind that one. I thought we had gotten it to an N-word place where you can only say it if you're one of us. You know what I mean? It's like
my word.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm autistic, so I can say the R word about myself because it's my word. But you can't say it because it's not your word. And also, I'm getting a little touchy about people who have ADHD trying to say it, and I'm like, no. Don't get me wrong. It's ADHD. It's a legitimate disability, but ADHD and autism. Different wheelhouses here.
I would agree.
They're both valid. They're both legit. Nobody at home start writing angry emails to me. But one of those does not face the R word nearly as much as the other does. I think we should be perfectly transparent. Yeah.
No, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think. Understanding that specific slurs are used for specific groups of people.
Yeah, it's and
that
reclamation belongs to the group it is targeted at. Like,
exactly.
yeah, it's like the same.
It's like when queer people use the F slur, right?
Yeah, it's like when and like the same way like where I'm not gonna say it on here, but like it's like occasionally like when I'm in a group of mainly other like queer people like me, other like bi and like gay and like everything on the continuum, like we use it sometimes for ourselves. But when a
Yeah,
straight person tries to pop in and use it, we all like look at them like they just committed a hate crime.
yeah. It's like you don't have the pass.
Yeah, it's not your word. Like
Yeah,
like so it's like it's really not hard to understand, and it does piss me off that like all of these slurs like are starting to come back in vogue with like the oppressor again. Like
yeah.
they've taken reclamation and twisted it like and say like it and I don't think free speech should be unlimited in this regard because
No,
no, because like listen, if you call someone a slur, you should be prepared for them to beat the shit out of you. And
it's the fuck around, find out
is that
charge,
is
right?
that
Like if you're gonna go
technically
around
is it
saying that stuff and
technically
insulting people,
illegal?
well, be prepared to find out.
Yeah, is it technically illegal to be punched for saying a slur? Yes, but is anyone going to feel sorry for you? Probably not.
No,
Like,
no.
and like listen, I'm not approving of violence here, but also like do your own math here. Like
Yeah. Well, it's
yeah, it's like if you're explicitly antisocial and antagonize people, like, and then you get shocked when the people you antagonize get angry at you, like,
yeah.
what are you doing? Like,
Well, it's like those guys that go out on the street and do like Nazi salutes, right? And then get punched upside the head and cry about
it's
it.
like,
It's like, well,
nobody could have
you were
predicted
kind of
that.
asking for
Yeah,
it, man.
it's like if you're expecting me as a Jew to feel sorry for you when you like go out with your swastika armband and like you fuck around and find out like no, not really.
No,
And
I
it's
think you got
funny.
what you deserved.
I know like there are some American Jews who will be like, well, here we have freedom of expression in the First Amendment, and even though I don't agree with it, I think those Nazis should have a right to say it. And I'm like, you are the dumbest of us. Like, it's like Canadian Jews don't agree with that one. Like,
It's
that
the
that's an
civilian in the
American
well,
sickness. Like,
the civilian in the well meme from
yeah,
online.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
our lords.
It's like no, I don't think free speech should be unlimited. I think some things like it's like I don't think you should be able to do shit like call for genocide. That's
Yeah.
like that. No, that's a call for violence. Like that is. Mind you, it's funny that in America, I know there was that one guy on Twitter who posted that thing called "When Must We Kill Them?" and
Oh,
got the
jeez.
and then he got a visit from the Secret Service, and they let him go because of Brandenburg v. Ohio, the threshold in America is imminent lawless action. And he wasn't calling for imminent lawless
Imminent
act.
lawless
He
action, no.
danced just on the right side of it. But in Canada, like right to jail. Do not pass
Yeah.
go. Do not collect $200. Right to jail. Like, yeah,
I mean,
I feel
speaking
like
of-
we've gone a bit off topic from cannabis.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
We kind of got
yeah,
into the political weeds a little.
a bit
already.
a bit
I guess
violent,
that's what happens.
a bit violent for
That's what
420.
I was gonna say, that's
Typically
what
a
happens when
calmer
you get us
holiday.
two.
Uh,
That's what happens when you get us two talking with each other for like any period of time.
yeah, all I know is my personal RCMP agent is having a fun time listening right now. Hi, Fred.
Oh, I'm sure I'm on there. Actually, funny story. I got a call from the RCMP a couple while ago because a political candidate was mad about my my pro-Palestine, anti-Israel activism.
What did you say?
Literally all I said was he called me a Hamas terrorist. He was a local counselor in Victoria. Actually, do you remember a while ago that counselor from Victoria that got caught up in the blackface scandal?
Vaguely.
Him. That was the guy. So he called me a terrorist or a terrorist sympathizer, one of the two. We got into it back and forth a little bit. I said I hope I ran into you.
I'm glad he taught you a lesson about racial sensitivity.
I hope I run into you one day. And he called the cops, said I was threatening him and his family.
Oy vey.
Yeah,
fun times.
That was fun.
Well,
I got the
for our 420 prayer before we go into the break, let us all spark up and pray that next year in Amsterdam we will live in a calmer world.
A commune, one may say.
A commune world. Okay, sure. Thank you, Chairman Mao. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. You see, folks, while all of my written articles and podcasts are available without a paywall, I need money to make them. Also, I need money to live. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider an optional paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back from the break for our special 420 episode. These three headline topics are not 420 related. My apologies to everybody. You got enough of that fun. We've... If you're Canadian, then you know everything that's going on in this country. You know the big things that are seizing our focus right now. So I will get into the big one that pretty much everyone's focused on, the Canadian federal election. Obviously, we had our two big debates, the French debate and the English debate. We've also had the Liberals and the NDP this weekend release their costed, air quotes, election platforms because, there's a lot of funky math. And while the Tories will be the last of the three major parties to release a costed election platform, the Bloc gets out of that fun, I guess, because, they don't plan to be the government. I do like that the Bloc has carved out a successful electoral niche above the left-right spectrum. Full credit there. I hate regionalism. I'm a centralist. I think the federal government should have more power. But regionalism is attractive to a lot of people, so I can't blame politicians for using it successfully. Congratulations to them. They have more seats than the NDP going into this election while they run in a single province. Jagmeet Singh should be embarrassed, but I may be adding a bit too much opinion here, but
no, I 100% agree with you there. I think if the Bloc is challenging for you, and let's be real here, it's not just this election that the NDP has finished behind the Bloc. It's been the last two elections that the NDP has finished behind the Bloc, previous to this one. So
let us just quickly double check that, because, we wouldn't want to spread. No. I do deeply appreciate my commitment to facts and truth on this platform, but you are correct. In 2019, that was true. So the NDP have been pretty consistently under Jagmeet Singh, fourth party.
They've been pretty consistently bad.
Yeah, although I posted on Twitter, I think a bit before we start recording this episode, that I'm gonna start calling those third parties, the Greens and the NDP and the Bloc, not opposition parties, but I'm gonna start calling them crossbenchers, what they call in the other Commonwealth countries, because
I've never heard that before.
Well, they aren't strictly opposition, are they? They
not really.
The Bloc and the Greens represent two separate interests above the left-right spectrum that don't seem like they have any serious goal of forming a government. It's only really the NDP that still have that pretension, and it doesn't seem to be working very well for them.
No, well, I think they've given up on that pretension for this election too.
Has anyone told Mr. Singh that?
Mr. Singh has now been campaigning that you need a minority government. Rather than vote for us as a governing party.
Well, that worked so well for Kathleen Wynne in 2018.
Yeah. Well, it's worked very well for him in the past couple cycles as well. He's done the same thing. Yeah. He starts the campaign saying, I'm running for government, and then realizes halfway through the campaign that, we're not gaining any traction.
So and I know both the Bloc and the NDP are polling a bit worse than they were in 2019 and 2021.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I am wondering, is it going to be a thing where the Liberals and the Tories are very close in seat count, but both below the threshold, and they essentially have to bargain for the Bloc support, or will the Liberals manage to cross the majority threshold? Because I think there's no longer a path for a Tory majority.
No, I think that's gone as well.
So it's pretty much three options: Liberal majority, Liberal minority with Bloc support, Tory minority with Bloc support.
Well, it could also be technically it could be with NDP support as well, given depending on how many seats the NDP win, how many seats the Liberals win. Might be easier to form What might be easier to
If
form
the
an agreement with
NDP
the
have a
NDP.
cataclysmic result, though, like it appears they may, I don't know if that'll be the case. Like, I
Well,
don't,
like
they may not have enough seats to put a minority government above the threshold by themselves.
yeah, that's why I'm wondering where
Yeah.
the Liberals end up finishing.
Yeah.
Because right now, like if you look at, I think if it's is it Grant or Philip Fournier? I think had them at like 173 just the other day.
Yeah.
So they were starting
It's
to come
got,
to, or no, it wasn't.
if it is
It
a
was
majority,
mainstream.
I think
It
it'll
was
be very
mainstream.
thin. And like this
Yeah,
is part of the problem with it narrowing into a two-way-ish race is that like 40% isn't what it used to be. Like
no.
40% in a five-way race is very different than 40% in a two-way race with like some
Well,
stragglers. Like
when we're talking about 40% for the Conservatives, we're generally talking about a Conservative majority.
yeah. And
And
now it means at best they might be opposition because the
yeah,
Liberals could be a couple points higher. Like
yeah, they might win a couple extra seats.
and honestly, it feels like Justin Trudeau strategically was correct to immorally break his promise for electoral reform because it may, I mean, it was a horrible and immoral and shitty thing to do, but it may successfully destroy all the other parties. It may give them the two-party system that the Liberals have always wanted, where if you're a progressive, you have to vote Liberal because you have no choice.
It might. Generally speaking, I don't think that'll be the case, especially if you look back at Canadian history. There just isn't enough, and I think you know this as someone who's been involved in Liberal politics, and I know this as someone who's been involved in NDP politics. While the voters themselves see a lot of crossover between the parties, the partisans hate each other.
The partisans hate each other, but you also like you can't be a partisan without voters. Like
no, true. But
like at a certain point,
wonder,
like if the voters cross over and don't come back, you're done.
Yes, but I wouldn't be surprised to see like the NDP go away or something like that. I would just be more surprised to see something new not take its place. I think there is enough.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. There are a lot of provinces in this country where the provincial Liberal Party just completely dissolved, and a lot of federal Liberals end up just joining the provincial NDP. And yeah, I know BC is a primary example of this. Like after the BC Liberals, which were the federal Tory coalition, like collapsed, like a lot of federal Liberals, especially MPs, like Talib Norhama, and and I know Liam Olson, the president of the Young Liberals of Canada, like they explicitly endorsed the BC NDP in that election. And I don't know that is the only thing that made the difference in the election, but with how tight it is, it certainly helped.
No, for sure. The one thing I would add to that, though, is in BC, we also have the BC Greens, who kind of take up that lane as a further left party than the NDP. And they themselves won 2 seats too, right?
They won 2.
So I think that same thing would be replicated on the federal level to some extent. Like, even if there were the case where the NDP, like let's say this election, the Liberals completely crushed the NDP, they win like I don't know.
But is that the best that progressives could hope for, or a rump party that doesn't really control anything in the legislature or have any way to influence policy?
Well, see, no, I don't think that's what the best that progressives can hope for. But it goes back to what you're speaking about on that. Eventually, you have to stand on your principles, right? And there are some principles that separate the NDP from the Liberal Party,
right?
I think that the NDP's role is to
although
stand on those
it seems every day fewer and fewer principles that separate
yes them. but it should be standing on those principles, and it should be trying to shift that Overton window back. Part of the reason our politics has gotten so right-wing is because we've just given up on trying to combat that,
trying to persuade people to be progressive, trying to make progressive accomplishments, and like when you're moderating yourself before your enemy even asks you to, you've lost. Like
you go in with the maximalist position. You don't go in with the consensus position to begin with, because then you're just going to get it watered down more.
And that's the funny thing. It's because like all of these voters have left the NDP for the Liberals for this election, but it didn't result in the Liberals going left. It resulted in the Liberals saying, like there's and I don't know that this is honestly very smart of the Liberals, like because you do, like obviously you don't want to alienate like soft people who may cross over from the right, but like at a certain point, if you have a dedicated center left base, not appealing to that is eventually going to cause significant problems.
Yeah.
Like, it appears in this election like they've got a second life, but
Yeah.
I don't know that in the election after this one that Carney is going to have that much, runway. Like,
No.
at a certain point, like, you can ask progressives for a second chance. It's really hard to ask for a third or a fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing,
Considering the
I have
whole
a feeling-
Trudeau term as a first chance.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Carney is going to somewhat experience the Starmer treatment. I do think Carney is going to win this election. I do think we're going to have a Liberal government after this election.
For those unaware, Keir Starmer, the Labour Prime Minister in Britain, who won and then by campaigning as like a centrist rather than Labour, and has governed essentially as a right-winger, and in some cases done things like prosecuted trans people even more than the Conservative government before him.
Well, he campaigned. He won a quite a massive majority, like a fairly historic majority, if I'm not mistaken. And now Labour is polling behind Reform.
Right, because it's
because their base is further to the left than the party,
right,
and the base does not see material changes.
And conservatives don't have this problem. Conservatives understand very well that if they don't make their base happy, they cannot win an election, and elections are about turning out their base and to some extent persuasion, but mostly like you can't focus so much on persuasion that you forget about the people who already like you.
Yeah. No, this is something I've said that left-wing parties need to learn from conservative parties.
It's like,
you need to learn to play to your
when
base.
like say Rogers or Bell or TELUS, they'll air like an ad showing a new promo deal for a cell phone plan, and you'll have been with them for a couple years and you're like, well, I've been a loyal customer, why don't I get a special price? Like like people do not like when a party or a company or whatever is chasing after the new thing more than the people who went to the dance with them. It's like that kind of greasy guy who goes out with his girlfriend and checks out other women. It's like, who came here with you?
Yeah. Well, and that's a huge problem that the NDP is experiencing. The NDP is having a crisis of identity. They don't know who they are right now. What if I were to stand back and say, what does the NDP represent? Who were their voters that they represent that someone else doesn't represent already? Yeah,
it's like it does frustrate me, and I mean I know with I like to some extent the NDP platform a little bit, like, and what it prioritizes in spending. The Liberal one I'm a bit more critical of. I mean, I like the commitment to that their like high-speed rail should go from Windsor to Quebec and La Ville de Quebec, not La Province. But it's because, I mean, that's just politically smart. Telling Southwest Ontario that you didn't care enough about them to expand the train there was a dumb fuck move by like a political incompetent. Whichever organizer or staffer on the Hill I probably know who made that decision, I apologize, but also you should have planned it to Windsor from the start. Like,
well, I'd like to see it go further. Like, I'd like to see parts of BC included.
I know they talk about Windsor to Quebec as the first fit, and also to credit to I also really like that they're like providing support to the province of Alberta to do Edmonton to Calgary, and like, listen, it really takes a lot for me to give any credit to Danielle Smith whatsoever, because like I think she's a bigoted, vile person. But she seems to be just as obsessed with trains as I am. Apparently, she ran a restaurant inside a decommissioned train car at one point. Like, she's a certified foamer. So, like, listen, if we can take advantage of that obsession to get her to collaborate with the federal government, and like, she just went on a personal tour via rail with like listen, I'm willing to let priorities like align here. If we can get proper intercity rail built between Edmonton and Calgary, that does a lot for like, combined with like proper high-speed rail between Windsor and Quebec City, that will cause carbon emissions to plummet. Like, and I think that's honestly like a lot more useful than a carbon tax would be. And it also makes me very upset we didn't use the carbon tax revenue to start building it like a decade ago. Like, because you get what I mean. It's like we should be using government revenue from carbon pricing to reduce emissions.
Well, when you think about what carbon pricing is too, especially, like, what is it? It's a tax on using carbon, right? And using gas.
Even more simply, it's paying for what you break. Like,
Yeah.
if
So
the environment is public property, and we believe as a society that if you break something, you should pay for it, when you break public property, you should pay for it. Which
yeah.
is why when people are like, oh, it's too expensive, the carbon tax. And I'm like, have you tried not polluting as much?
Well, see, so here's where I'm going to disagree with you slightly a little bit here, is because, and I think this just comes strictly from the fact that I grew up in a rural area and you've grown up in a more metropolitan area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in this country that simply don't have the transportation, the way to get around. So, for example, the hometown I grew up in, it's a town of about 3,000 people. To get to work I had to drive to another town about half hour away. I had to do that every day.
Oh yeah, it's like
I couldn't take.
It is
bus
very
because the buses
hard
didn't run.
to live anything other than a high carbon lifestyle, like a high emission lifestyle in a rural area.
Exactly.
And I guess this is where I'm going to make people a little upset. That's kind of what the carbon tax is trying to pressure you not to do. Most people should not actually be living in rural areas. And I know that's going to get clipped and used as opposition research whenever I run for office in 2040 or some bullshit.
Especially in a rural area.
Oh yeah, but it's like at a certain point, like if we know that certain kinds of living are better for the environment than other kinds of living, then I do have a right to say maybe you shouldn't be living like that.
I would argue it's less a fact.
Or if you are, then you should pay for it. Like
I would argue it's less of a fact of the living like that, and more of the fact that we need to have the infrastructure to support it.
Well, that's true, and you can have compelling high service bus service in rural areas, but the problem is rural voters care more about lower property taxes than they do about raising them slightly to pay for that kind of service.
Yes.
So, and this is the other thing, from an accelerationist point of view, the carbon tax kind of pressures rural voters to say, well, you're going to have to change things in your community if you don't want to pay as much carbon tax. Like, now, unfortunately, that didn't end up working as much because they were able to just vote for someone who would get rid of it. But like, in the ideal scenario, you are forcing people to make different decisions. And in many cases, this is the thing, when people talked about the carbon tax making their gas more expensive, and I'm like, well, if it really made it more expensive, you wouldn't be able to buy the gas. Like, if you're still buying the same gas, if you're still filling your tank to full, what you're telling me is we actually need to raise it higher. And this is when people get really mad at me. But listen, I live like not even a minute, a 30-second walk from a subway station. Yeah. I surrendered my learner's permit and got a photo card. My only carbon extravagance is that I have beef. Like, if I had the option,
if I had the option for that transit and everything, I would change my life in a heartbeat. It'd be cheaper.
Right. But
it's much more efficient.
But also, the other thing is, like, rail is getting to more like, look at Calgary and Edmonton. They have pretty respectable, like, public transit systems where, like, they have light rail, I get, but they're like real proper semi-metros with like high floor trains. Like, they come frequently, like, they're wheelchair, like the Alberta and provinces that want to support rural communities with strong bus service, strong and increased like rail service, they have the capacity to do this. They're choosing not to.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that sorry for them.
Fair enough, but I do think that's where we need those political advocates on the left, in particular, raising this issue of the fact that, like,
we need left-wingers who want to build subway systems and metro systems rather than people like Jennifer Keesmaat saying that I remember Keesmaat, she said that elevated rail destroys communities. And like I've been to Vancouver, I've been to Chicago. These are vibrant, flourishing places, like multicultural. Like, these are amazing communities. Like, I know Chicago is American, but folks, like, get credit where credit's due. Like, it's like the idea that an elevated train, like public transit, like destroys a city. Like, if you told me that came from a supposedly, it's like, I remember when I was in Vancouver and, like, I was walking down the stairs and the train was going, and it was the first time in my life I didn't run to try and catch it because I saw the next one would be there in 2 minutes, because it's always there within a couple minutes on the dot. Like
it is the one thing the BC Liberals did correct.
It's just, it infuriates me. They have stuff like the SkyTrain in Vancouver, you have the REM in Montreal, like and the problem is a few left-wing parties, they'll oppose these things for a very simple reason, that they're automated rather than having a human driver. And the union hates this. But the problem is, it isn't just that it's cheaper. It isn't just that it can operate for more hours. It's safer. It's not it's not just more accurate. Like, less people get hurt. Less people get, I don't think people understand with the automated trains that even though Vancouver doesn't have platform screen doors, it is one of the highest safety records in North America, because it can tell when someone's on the tracks.
Yeah, it can tell when someone's on the tracks, and it'll halt the train.
And even with this, it manages to keep a highly consistent and regular schedule. It's much more energy. It's just, I don't think people fearmonger about automated trains. I don't think they realize they're safer and cheaper and better. And I me, I'm fairly pro-union, but at a certain point, I don't think every job should be done by a human if it can genuinely be done by a computer, safer and better.
Well, and that doesn't mean that the technicians can't be unionized.
Oh, of course,
it needs engineers can't be unionized. That doesn't mean that people that are actually
the jobs that need to be done and need to exist should be unionized.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't need train operators for public transit. And this is what really pisses me off about stuff like streetcars and trams. Because they intersect traffic, they need a human driver. But because they need a human driver, they'll only come every 15 minutes instead of every 2 minutes. And they'll crash more. And you get what I mean? It's just, and I know, in this age, we're all are afraid of AI taking our jobs and stuff. I know we've got a bit off topic from this one, so we'll move on to our next topic soon. But
we went way in the weeds.
I know.
I don't even think we talked about the debates there.
Yeah, we talked about the debates a little, I guess. It's I wish that people were not afraid of things being better. And this seems to affect a lot of how people are voting in this election, to bring it back around. People are afraid to think of something being better. They can only think of making sure things don't get worse.
I was going to say, do you think that's an aversion to change, though?
Well, speaking of aversions to change and fearing how things could get worse, our second headline topic of the day, Donald Trump still wants Canada to be the 51st state. We thought he forgot, but he didn't. Or, he might have forgot, but don't worry, Katie Simpson of the CBC managed to remind him. Well, Nara, Katie Simpson, a CBC reporter who seems to be their main American correspondent for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. She was in the White House press gallery in a press room. She asked the press secretary, whose name I don't really remember because I just remember her as that horrible person. And Katie Simpson was like, are you still interested in that? And they were like, well, of course, we of course think it would be better for Canada to be part of to be our 51st state, and we think you need to do it. And for the No Prize today, Mr. Kercher, do you think that Canadians want to be annexed forcibly by the United States against our will?
Jake, I gotta say, I don't think they'd like that very much.
That is correct. Congratulations, Matthew Kercher, on winning your official It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau No Prize for pointing out the extremely fucking obvious. God,
fuck off. Just leave us alone.
Go away. I used to be very unique among left-wingers in this country for being a military hawk, for thinking we need to I know when people were talking about percentage of GDP spent on the military being 2% and us being below that. I remember I went on the radio one time and I said we need to be at 6% or 8%, and that people thought that was crazy. But meanwhile, a nuclear armed superpower to our south is maybe you shouldn't be an independent country anymore. While members of their administration are going out throwing out out Nazi salutes and like imprisoning all the racial undesirables. Like these are actual fashion. Like,
Yeah.
we need a nuclear
not begging
bomb.
people off the
Canada needs a nuclear bomb. Like.
I will say that on this issue, I have come around to being more in favor of increased military spending.
And isn't that something? Isn't it crazy how like I know I'm usually right about things before other people admit I am, but like not, but like it is there was a certain like, and I appreciate pacifism, but also like at a certain point, a country's right to exist is sustained through force.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I think learning a little bit more about history has helped bring me around to that perspective as well. I'm understanding that when you try and do a left-wing project, the powers that be are not very happy globally.
I know Karl Marx was like extremely opposed to the concept of gun control because he was like, well, how are you supposed to do a violent revolution of the capitalist if you don't have guns, workers? Yeah. Like, and it's pretty funny to read that.
What is the quote? The quote is, and that being said, like I've never been anti-gun. I've always been pro-gun.
I've been a bit anti-gun, but like just because I've had friends who were targeted and killed in mass shootings, so it's a personal sore spot for me. But like, I that's never meant I don't want like a well-armed and well-regulated military. Yeah. But also, I've been pretty critical of the Canadian military because of the problem that that Anita Anand was moved away from fixing because she wanted to actually deal with the racists and sexists. Like, I mean, we have sexual assault was rampant in the Canadian Armed Forces. Like it was covered up too.
It's like Harjit Sajjan helped cover this up.
Call me crazy, but I really don't think that women are going to be that antsy to join up if they're worried about that. While they're sequestered on a base where they can't really tell the outside world what happens or get help. Like, you get exactly what I mean. And I mean, even in general, the conditions for serving in the armed forces are kind of dog shit. Like, I know things aren't quite as bad as when there was that story about the soldiers having to buy their own helmets, but like if you're going to pay someone to risk their life being potentially shot, you kind of have to pay them well.
There are a couple things though, because I want to get back a little bit to the military spending, because like I said, I agree with it going up. The other thing I'm interested to hear from you though is like, what's your kind of stance on NATO now that the U.S. is threatening us?
Oh, I still support NATO. From the perspective that I think America's going to leave soon, and it'll be very useful for everyone else, and that will have our anti-America defensive pact already designed.
Fair enough.
Like, because we know what America is leaving NATO for Russia. Like they're doing Warsaw Pact 2 electric boogaloo. Like so it's like we're a lot of the countries in NATO we're kind of going to need to collaborate with anyways in this new world without America. So I mean, I guess like you could just say we could also collaborate more directly with the European Union on defense. Yeah. But like it feels like a tomato thing. If America's leaving and America's stopping their collaboration with NATO, then like what really is the difference in just keeping it for ourselves?
Yeah, see, that's the main issue that concerns me is whether or not the U.S. is involved in the alliance. Because if the U.S. is going to be continued to be involved in the alliance, we can't be.
Oh yeah, and from an intelligence standpoint, that battle's kind of already lost. CSIS is kind of just a signal relay station at this point for the rest of the Five Eyes. Yeah. I do agree in the fact that like there needs to be a very hard discussion about like what are we sending through NATO if we know that America has access to it. Yeah.
Well, and it even goes to like our integration with the American military industrial complex as it stands right now. Right?
To an extent, I don't like, for example, like I don't think we're gonna need to start doing shit like changing like the caliber of ammunition we use. Like,
no.
You gotta. But to be fair, that is a lot of what NATO did was like
Yeah.
standardizing
Standardized equipment.
and it's like we can still use a lot of these standards even if we don't buy the equipment from America anymore, because
Yeah.
America was never the only country providing military equipment to NATO. I know, like,
Yeah.
if we're gonna buy jets, I think it's pretty clear we'll probably be getting the Gripen E, or at this point.
Yeah, that's what I would be pursuing.
I
at
know
this point.
we have already paid for a certain number of
We're
F-35s, and we will
yeah, so we're
receive some
getting a first
delivery of
delivery.
them. I know a couple weeks ago when George Soule was on the podcast with me, and we talked about how the Iran managed a decade ago under Obama. They managed to down and capture a Reaper drone, and they managed to fully reverse engineer it
Yeah.
and produce pretty much identical drones with very similar capabilities, but they're just have an indigenous computer. Indigenous in the military sense of domestically made, not indigenous, like different kind of the meaning of the word, folks. But like an Iranian made tactical computer, essentially, in the drone. So it's like at a certain point, I think we do still want to take delivery of the F-35s we've already bought, because there's probably a lot we can learn from them and then use for our own benefit. And I'm sure a lot that other European countries would also be interested to learn for, the right price. Like, and you get the idea. It's like there's a lot of technology in the F-35 that is of genuine benefit and advantage over other fighter jets right now. But the problem is America doesn't want you to know what it is. But the thing is, once we own the jet, like, sure, we may not be able to get the regular software updates to keep it flying, but we can create our own, like, Israel already created a separate electronic warfare and computer system, like, by reverse engineering the F-35. It's just that America sent them a test bed aircraft to do it a bit easier. But my point is, if Iran can fully reverse engineer an American drone and then field it as a fully produced model, like, we don't have to respect copyright for a country that we may have to fight.
No.
Yeah, it's like it's like people are like, oh, the Gripen E, it relies on a Rolls-Royce engine and they manufacture it under license. And I'm like, if America tried to invade Sweden, do you really think they would stop making that engine because they don't have the license anymore? Like, let's be fucking serious here for a moment.
You're going to use whatever you can use. Like, it's just...
It's like China, I know they manufactured the AK-47 under license as the Type 50. And at one point, there were more Type 50 derivatives than actual AK-47 derivatives, like, at a certain point, because people were just buying the copy of the copy. Like, at a certain, like, there's a reason military secrets are so deeply protected. It's because they're copied really easily.
Because if you have the blueprints, it's not that hard to do.
Yeah, it's like that's almost like the point of the blueprints, is showing you how to make it. Like, so yeah, it's like overall, I don't know that there's a lot new to talk about. Like, I think Canadians are pretty resoundingly opposed to the idea of joining America, and we've kind of accepted the fact that we're going to need to build up our military to make sure we don't get Anschlussed.
Not only build up our military, but shift military production back home as well.
I guess
is a key part as well too.
True, although perhaps not completely at home, because I know, like, we're gonna need to be doing a lot of procurement from Europe, and not just Europe. Like, South Korea also has a pretty robust self-defense industry, and defense industry, not always self-defense, but you get the South Korea and Japan are kind of just as worried about America right now as we are. It's like
South Korea and Japan are worried about America that they just signed a 3-way deal with China.
Exactly, like there's a certain realignment. It's like I know Taiwan too is probably pretty concerned right now about what their future might hold. But, like,
I think generally Canada should be pursuing closer ties with China at this point.
And it's weird because it's like I support the full autonomy of Taiwan. They're separate. Like, there is no remerging. And like the pitch that mainland China made for Taiwan reintegrating was the Hong Kong SAR and the Macau SAR, and that's gone Well, for Macau, it's gone all right but like for Hong Kong, it's gone pretty terribly. I mean, like in terms of like crackdowns on like and political repression, like Taiwan does not want that. And at a certain point, like Taiwan may not have a lot of foreign support, but they'll still be at a point where they have like a pretty robust military, and like China may kind of just wait out their. Yeah, I don't know that.
I honestly think China is fairly content with the current situation.
True, because
like,
I think people severely misunderstand cross-strait relations. Like there is a lot of commerce and trade across the Taiwan Strait. Like people fly back and forth for tourism and such all the time. I mean, mind you, like people from Taiwan who go to visit China may face repression if they do certain things, but like it's not like a Berlin Wall situation at all. And like that doesn't mean that Taiwan wants to be part of China. It doesn't mean that Taiwan doesn't have a unique and valid identity. But it means that Taiwan, like Canada, like Palestine, like Ukraine, will have to consider what the world looks like when we need to defend ourselves without much help.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, too, Taiwan's already started to kind of make those moves. I'm pretty sure did they not just have elections in Taiwan?
I'm not.
Or they have them upcoming.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's been a change to the Pan Green coalition yet. But that is, I guess, the bigger picture around this. There's a complete geopolitical realignment. And like and it's funny because like people will say, well, how can you become closer with China with all the horrible things they do to people? And I'm like, well, look at all the horrible things we tolerated from the United States. You look at
any number of our other allies.
You look at world leaders like Abdul Nasser in Egypt, and he would play the Soviet Union and America against each other. He despised them both, but like he got what he needed to out of them until he couldn't anymore. You get it's a dangerous game to be playing, and I'm really, really glad we're playing it. But moving on to our final topic of the day, and as you folks know, we always like to focus on a local story, and, you know, in the past few weeks, we've done local stories from the Atlantic, from the West, so today I'm pretty happy as a Toronto native to be bringing up a Toronto local story about something that's really cheesing me a little. Here's the headline, folks, from CBC News in Toronto. Toronto speed camera that's issued over 65,000 tickets cut down for the fourth time. Now, call me crazy, but if vandals keep on cutting down a camera designed to enforce the law by ticketing speeders, should the government or should Mayor Chow not consider a new design of camera that's not mounted on the ground where people can reach it, or perhaps one not made of flimsy metal that can be beat with a hammer? Or you get the idea, like there doesn't actually seem to be much care for the fact that someone is going and damaging a law enforcement tool. And this is interesting to me because as someone who used to be pretty active in protest movements, and as someone who goes and covers protest movements now in a journalistic fashion, if someone were to damage police equipment in this fashion, they would die.
Get my ass beat, man.
No, yeah, like this. So this is fucking absurd. Like I look at how like cops in Toronto like terrorize cyclists for saying, "Oh, you are protecting yourself on the road. That's illegal." Meanwhile, like Marco Mezzi can like kill a family and like get off without jail time, and then like a hospital will be named after his family, and then the father on like Father's Day will like take his own life because he knows there'll be no justice in the world. This is all something that actually happened, folks. So it's like I really get fucking mad at like shitty like as someone especially who walks more than I'm in a car. Like I do not think people should have the right to drive. Driving is a privilege. Driving is something you do when you get a license that proves you can do it safely. And it seems in Canada, no matter where you are from coast to coast to coast, that the routine is you drive safely until you pass your test as a teenager, and then you kill people. I'm sorry, if you can get multiple speeding tickets without your car getting impounded, that's fucking absurd. If you can, the fact that, you can kill people with a car and get notably less jail time for no other reason than the fact that it was in a car, so they can't prove motive because maybe you were just it's just vehicular manslaughter. And I'm like, you mean killing somebody? I've rambled on a bit here, but Matt, do you think that these demon drivers should be granted freedom in our society?
Well, no, of course not. But I also think that there may be a more structural issue here too. Perhaps Mayor Chow, instead of looking at just replacing the camera, should maybe look at some traffic calming features on that portion of road. I'm not from Toronto, so I'm kind of just speaking out of my ass here a little.
No, you're correct. A lot of these, for folks at home, traffic calming features, it's redesigning the road to not be wide and straight. You add curves and bends, which make you have to naturally, and the idea is by doing that, it creates a slower driving pattern without actually changing the speed limit on the road, because you have to slow down going into a turn. So if it weaves around a little, then drivers have to naturally drive more slowly. But the problem is this costs money. And when Toronto had Vision Zero, which was the vision of 0 people being killed by cars, but in the end, it was the vision of $0 being spent to help anybody. I hate this. At a certain point, not just in Toronto, but in a lot of this country, people in cars have more value to their life, according to the government, than people who are out of cars. People cheer when they see clips of cyclists being hit by cars. And what really fucking pissed me off, what really made me upset when Olivia Chow rolled over for Doug Ford on getting rid of the bike lanes, which notably reduced fatalities on the roads, which notably, measurably saved the lives of many, many people. Olivia Chow, talked on her Reddit AMA back in February about how she was very, when someone asked her why she wasn't fighting Doug Ford on him removing the bike lanes in Toronto, she said, I understand because I'm a cyclist and I have the scars on my body from when I got doored by a car. But then but this made me more mad. I'm like, wait, so you've literally been scarred and maimed as a cyclist and you still won't stand up for cyclists. What is the point of you?
He's my expectations were not high for Olivia Chow, but holy fuck.
No, it's
it's been bad.
This is
straight up.
I think this is a severe problem the NDP have in Ontario whenever I bring this up to my NDP friends, they're like, oh, they're not partisan, they're mayors. And I'm like, okay, cut the bullshit. Andrea Horwath is dyed in the wool orange. Olivia Chow is dyed in the wool orange.
Olivia Chow was the wife of Jack Layton.
It's Horwath and Chow, who have both pivoted hard right when becoming mayors and attacked their own progressive bases. The Ontario NDP doesn't want to admit that these are their main NDP representatives in Ontario. These are the main names that people think of when they think of the NDP, not Merit Styles, because you get what I mean, because they're actual political leaders instead of political opposition. And when your main representation as the NDP are these two disappointments who betray every NDP principle they claimed to have so they can campaign for the same votes as the Conservative they replaced, it's absurd and it's disgusting and it's pathetic.
Yeah. No, and this isn't the thing with Merit Styles too is looking at the history of past NDP leaders, there's no guarantee that she wouldn't try and run for mayor somewhere and then also take a right-wing shift. There's nothing saying that won't happen.
Well, of course that's what she's going to do because she can't win an election.
And the other thing
Like,
is,
she can't win. Like, she's never going to
yeah,
beat Doug Ford. So either she's going to wait for Doug Ford to retire, which he'll never do because he loves this. And to be fair, I would love being premier for life too.
yeah,
But like, it's the dream job, and people, and Ontario wants him to keep doing it,
yeah,
unfortunately. So it's like she's going to be waiting forever. Like, at a certain point, she's going to cave in, like Stephen Del
yeah,
Duca and Olivia Chow, like everyone else who realizes that they're dead in partisan politics, and they're going
yeah,
to take the consolation prize of being a mayor of a mid-sized city,
yeah,
and they're going to do austerity, and are going to be like, as long as I keep property taxes as low as possible, it
yeah,
doesn't matter how terrible things get, because the shithills will vote for me, and the poor
yeah.
people will stay home because they don't believe anyone will ever be better.
Yeah. Oh, and this isn't even just an Ontario NDP issue. This is a countrywide
And it's like
NDP issue.
if,
Like John Horgan, when
yeah.
he retired, went and worked for Tech Mines.
Yeah, it's like
There's I believe,
and
the
the
name
BC NDP, like their biggest priority, like under him, was like clear cutting forests. Like,
yeah,
is and you know, when progressives do have something that the right wing does like, that progressives could also like say nuclear power in an area that, like Ontario, where there aren't very many earthquakes. It's like credit to the Ford conservatives where credit is due. They're extending the life of our nuclear plants with proper refurbishments, and they want to open new ones. And this is what more than 50% of power in Ontario is generated by nuclear power. It's like, this is why the gas plants is closed. This is why we don't have smog days anymore. This is why children are going to grow up with lower asthma rates in Ontario, because we have cleaner air, because we have lower carbon emissions. And like this, like I yell at like Saskatchewan and Alberta, I'm like you've got all the uranium in Western Canada right there. If you're still addicted to guzzling oil, it's your own fucking problem. Like,
yeah, no, they could do it. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in BC, but BC has tons of other energy sources. Like, we don't need it.
Yeah, it's like BC, like I appreciate, has like a lot more tectonic plate issues that, mind you, nuclear reactors, like the modern third and fourth generation models like we use in Ontario, are pretty much fail-safe. Like, they don't melt down. Like,
I would be more concerned at our LNG facilities than I would be at a nuclear reactor.
To put it, like, occasionally, like, I'll get the free iodine tablets shipped for, like, to me, because like we live like near Pickering. They expire before we ever use them. Like, like I have zero fear in my life that the nuclear power plants near me could ever pose a risk to my life. And quite frankly, I wish as a child I got to go on a field trip.
That'd be cool. That'd be a cool place to see.
It's like I remember in grade 9 science class, my teacher held up like one of a uranium fuel rod, but it's like it was just 8 pellets. And he said, these 8 pellets are enough to power an entire home for a whole family for a year. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so like climate change is just a choice then. Like,
very much.
Yeah, pollution is just a choice that we're making, because we could have solved this at any time.
Well, it's a choice informed by capitalism.
I know, and like when people
we've designed our system,
and when people are like, "Well, what about nuclear waste?" and I'm like, the benefit of nuclear waste versus carbon emissions, they're solid. They don't go into the air and you don't breathe them. You layer them in a lead and bury them below the earth, and then no one will ever see it again. And it's like, in the worst case, in 200 years, we'll start launching them into the sun. But
I was going to say, or we'll put them on the moon or something.
Also, I know, again, we've got a bit off topic from shitty drivers in Toronto and progressives failing us, but here's a fun fact for you folks at home. Did you know that the emissions from coal-fired power plants have more radiation than nuclear power? Like, those are more radioactive. Those would do more damage to your health. The emissions from coal. Coal is radioactive. People do not realize that coal is radioactive, but it is radioactive in a way which is much harder to contain, obviously, than nuclear power, where the waste stays solid and heavily sealed at all times.
I also wonder, like, are there a lot of coal mines in Ontario?
I'm not familiar with the full extent of coal mining in Ontario.
Okay.
What I do know is conservatives are always happy to do any resource exploitation they can.
Yeah. Because
Like,
I know here in BC, it is a pretty big thing in the interior. Like there are still towns in BC that are built on coal mining.
I know in Ontario the focus is more on other
Yeah.
more on critical minerals. Especially in the Ring of Fire, which everyone wants to
But it's
I mean, the indigenous people who live there don't necessarily want them to mine there,
yeah.
but all the white people who want to colonize it seem to want to exploit them very much.
Yeah.
I'm
But
shocked. Shocked.
the other flip side
Never
of coal
happened
too is like
before.
it's so bad to burn it. But if you're unfamiliar, if you've never actually been near a coal mining community, you can't really grasp just the damage that actually mining it
Yeah,
also does to the environment.
and not just mining
Like,
coal, but mining in general. Like,
yeah,
there's a reason you want to keep it contained to certain areas, and
yeah,
that these areas are not necessarily the best place for people to live. It's like there's a reason that like mining towns and mining communities aren't very sustainable. It makes much more sense to like fly people in and out of there and have them like a certain amount of months on and off, like working on an oil rig. Like,
well, when you
you can't build a sustainable community like near a mine anymore, not
yeah,
just for environmental reasons, but for economic reasons.
yeah.
Like,
Well, you can even go by, like, if you just go by them, you can feel that air change. You can
yeah,
feel the coal dust in the air. It's not a healthy
I've had
environment
it
at
in
all.
like certain like parts of America when I've visited, like compared to when I'm in Canada. Like you can tell
Yes.
there, like when I'm in Pennsylvania, especially like the steel, you breathe it in, like
Yeah.
it.
Well,
And
I remember going.
you need some of these things. I respect the fact you need metal, you need critical mineral. Like I understand there's no free lunches, but is it so much to ask that we just try and do it in a responsible way and not just go like let her rip?
Mhm. Absolutely, and not only a responsible way, but with Indigenous buy-in as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like
It's like if
it shouldn't be hard.
yeah, it's like you can't just go to the Ring and Fire and colonize it.
Yeah,
Like again, a second time, like
yeah,
or multiple times depending on who's counting. But like it's like there are people there and they've said they do not want this, or they may only want it in a very specific way. And meanwhile you've got people going up at political debates saying, we gotta let her rip, we gotta rip it all out of the ground, money, money, money,
yeah,
money, money. Like it feels like I'm listening to like a 19th century oil baron. Like what's old is new again, I guess.
yeah. Well, it really is, isn't it? Fascism. What's old is new again.
Yep.
Like it does really seem like we're taking steps backwards.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's such a kind of a sour note to end on. It feels like.
Yeah, folks, if you were hoping for a more optimistic ending to this show, then you really haven't heard any previous episodes before, have you? Matt, thank you so much for coming on the program and rambling with me both about the actual topics we were supposed to talk about and also the ones we just got to, because it was a cool conversation. Very fun times, very fun vibes. It has been a pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved it. It was great to be here. Really, really enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully the ratings will be good and maybe you'll come back again.
Yeah, we'll see if you guys want me back.
Yeah, if you guys want them to come back, you know what to do. Like, play it for your friends and family. Also, give me money, please. I'm very hungry. All right, Matt Kercher, everybody. Thank you. Thank you to everybody for tuning in for this week's special 420 episode of the podcast. If you do not partake, no worries. There is no peer pressure here. But if you do partake, then we wish you the best of festivities to come. Thank you, and have a good day.